Hey folks, welcome back to Jerome Bee Farm and Homestead. It's Saturday, March 2nd, 2024. Heading into spring, things are looking good here. The daffodils are coming up blooming, and the forsythia's blooming full yellow over there. Crocuses are up. The apricot trees are pretty much in full bloom, and the last couple days we had some pretty hard freeze down to 28 degrees. I looked at the blooms, they seem to be okay. I don't know, but I'm sure we'll get another freeze after this. We've never got an apricot, I don't think ever, off that tree. And there's a wild one over here right by the beehives, and we never got an apricot off of that either. So I don't know what the deal is with those. But I've been working the last couple of weeks down here rotating hives out, and what I mean by that is through winter your bees will work their way up into the top deep box. So if you're like me and you run a double deep system, the bees will be up into the top box and working on that honey up there until the nectar flow, and the bottom will basically be empty. So you move the empty boxes on top so they can fill that up before they start working on their honey supers. And there's a couple things you look for when you're doing that. If you have brood above and below, you don't want to split that brood chamber up and discombobulate it and move it around. But sometimes what I will do, if there is a little bit of brood below, I will just pull those frames and combine them up with the other brood, and then rotate it on down to the bottom. So all the brood will be in the bottom with the queen and all of that, and have it ready for her to move up. Also been culling a lot of older frames, 2017, 18, 19 vintage frames that are really dark looking, and some of them they're pretty bad. As far as age, the cells are getting smaller. And also, if there's some of those older frames and they look good, they're a lighter color, which they mostly had honey in them and not brood, then they look pretty good, so I'm leaving those. And I'm putting in some new frames. I've replaced a lot of, 3 or 4 deep boxes that are rotted out, and the bees were coming in through holes in the side of the hives. So that wasn't very good, so I got those changed out. Today I'm going to get in these 3 hives right here behind me. That's 99, formerly known as Hive 13, 14 and 15 there, and we're going to see which ones of those we're going to rotate, cull some frames, and we'll go from there. So let's get in there and see what it looks like and see if we're going to rotate these or not. Okay, Hive 99 looks pretty good from the front. There's a lot of bees. It's getting later in the evening, and a lot of bees are just coming on back in the hive. Still got our reducers on here. Looks like I may see some pollen coming in. There's a little bit of nectar out there right now, but not much yet. So this hive down here with the brick, that's hive 11. That's actually empty. It was a failed hive. I don't remember what the exact cause was, but anyway, I have a inner cover underneath that top box and another inner cover on top of that, and I'm using that as a bank to store honey frames if I come across a hive that's really heavy, and I pull a few honey frames out and I'll go put them over there and put the lid on it and save them there. So when I get to the next hive that might need some honey, I'll just pull them out of there, and that helps with robbing. And I have started a little bit of robbing on a couple occasions when I was out here. One time down here especially, and really strong hive, and I just wound up closing that up, and I went around the corner and started working on hives down on the other end till they calmed down. So this is a pretty invasive procedure. You're moving a lot of frames around, and bees don't care for that much. Let's check the weight. This one feels pretty good as far as weight goes. So they probably got plenty of honey in there. And there's a pretty good population from the looks of it. So I'm going to go ahead and smoke them here from the top. Yeah, I see wall-to-wall bees. Look on here for a queen. Don't see one. And there's a lot of bees up like that. You always want to make sure your queen's not up there. You should do that every time, but especially when there's a lot of bees like that. So a lot of propolis in these hives. Been sitting all winter. So I'll get as much of this out of here as I can. If it's really bad, I'll go ahead and swap all these frames out into a new box that is cleaned off, where your frames sit on the edge there. It gets full of a lot of propolis, so you get one that's already cleaned out and you just stick them in there. A friend of mine, Dave Rowden, is the one that told me about that trick, because I was digging each of them out every time, every frame, and it was taking me forever. And he said, I just use a new box and swap it out and scrape it when it's empty. I was like, man, that's a great idea. Okay. Start over here on the left, and this frame here says 17, 17, 18, 18. This one's not even marked and it's really dark, so these may be some cull frames if they don't have honey in them, depending on what they look like. Yeah, so this is a 17 frame. You can see it's pretty dark, but we've got honey on there, so we're not gonna cull it if it's full of honey. So the first thing I do is I start going through here looking to see how many frames of brood I've got. And these are testy bees. They are out all over me right now just for moving that frame. So here's our pollen. See all that pollen in there? The yellow. I believe that's maple pollen. So next to your pollen, you're going to start seeing brood. And we have more pollen, more pollen. So your hives can get pollen bound, just like they can get honey bound. There's no place left for a queen to lay. So these frames having that new pollen in them, I'm not going to cull them. Here's our brood. That's a full capped brood frame on both sides. So we'll just keep scooting over. There's brood and brood. Looks like it's emerging. So it's empty in here, and you got capped out here. So that tells me it's emerging from the center where she started laying, and it's emerging towards the outside. And she may have already came back and backfilled that. I'm smelling something a little funky. I don't know if it's back in these trees or if it's this hive. I think it's this hive. It smells kind of like something dead. Everything looks healthy though. I'm not seeing any bunches of dead bees. We'll get down on the bottom. There may be a clump of dead bees down in there. More brood. More brood. Yeah, I think it's definitely coming from in here. That's some funky smelling stuff. It may be some nectar they're getting. I don't know. So I see brood on this next frame as well. I won't even pull it out. I'm just going to slide it over. More brood. Probably got a queen on here somewheres. I'm not paying real close attention. I'm more interested in seeing where all the brood is. This is 17 frame as well. Really old. This is heavy. This is going to be honey. Yeah, I got honey out here and pollen. So, no need to center up the brood. It's not all off to one side. It's evenly spread throughout here. So that's something I will do. If I only have a couple frames of brood and they're over here, I'll move them towards the center. This appears to be a really strong hive. So to balance out some hives, I could steal a frame or two of brood out of here to slow them down a little bit, prevent them from swarming, help prevent from swarming. There's no perfect swarm prevention, silver bullet. Tight fit, lots of bees. It's tight because all the propolis in there that's between all these frames. Let's get my hive stand and we'll get this off of here. Okay, this hive to me is looking like one that might not get rotated. It's so strong that there's likely going to be brood down below. I could bring up one, maybe two frames of brood and get rid of these two outside honey frames and move them up to the top. But we'll see what we find down here. If there's more than just a couple little frames of brood, we're going to have to leave them the way they are. Well, I don't know. I think maybe most of the bees are up in the top. Let's see. Empty. Got pollen. 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 Boy, they are hauling pollen. I wonder if that's what I smell. It smells like almost like a dead out hive in here. I wonder if I'm smelling the one maybe next door or something that's dead out. I don't know. That's what it smells like. A little bit of pollen here and here. A little bit of nectar in there in a few cells, so they're bringing in some from these blossoms we're seeing. This is empty as well. A little bit of pollen. Yeah, there's no brood down here. I'm going to stop there. Since there's pollen in most of these, I'm going to leave them. I'm going to take a look at that one on the outside that's from 2017. See how it looks. You know, it doesn't look too bad for a 2017 frame. It's not real dark. You can tell this side here's had more brood in it. It's darker on this side. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave that for one more year. We'll rotate this up, clean off that bottom board. So this hive, we're running a slatted rack. In springtime when it's cold, it'll let the queen come down and lay brood down in the bottom area, and it'll keep the brood warmer down here because it gives you a little bit extra space. And then in the swarm season, it gives you a little bit extra space down in here for more bees to hang out so they don't feel as crowded. So it helps a little bit with swarming. You don't have to have these on your hives, and they are kind of expensive for no more than what it is. It's quite a few bees kind of in a little cluster right there. I don't want to mess with them. I'll just set this aside. So to clean these bottom boards, what I do to not disturb the bees a whole lot, I just tilt them and let the crumbles fall off and the bees stay. This is pretty clean actually. There's not much in here. This doesn't need scraped. It's not full of junk. It's not full of dead bees. They've kept it pretty clean. Pretty hygienic hive. Look at all those bees coming back from the field. So we'll go ahead and put the top one on the bottom here. I want to get this propolis off of here. Get that cleaned up so it'll fit better. They can make a new seal. So this hive here was almost a perfect example of one to rotate. All the brood was up top. It's really strong. So all that population is going to be in the bottom now, and they can work their way up into those empty cells. And all that pollen is up there, will be up there from this box here, that they can, the queen will go in there and lay, and there'll be pollen next to the brood. If I'd have left it alone, she'd have been down there laying before long anyway. So now this way we'll get honey up in here before they start filling up the honey supers. So this is a really nice hive. I'm going to scrape all this propolis off here, get this cleaned up. And I have some pollen patties, a few left. Okay, these are the Hive Alive 15% pollen patties. It's perforated on one side, solid on the other. So you just put them in the hive with this paper on there, and the bees will start working in these holes and on the sides. And the paper protects it from small hive beetles getting in there and laying eggs. And the bees just work it from the sides and the bottom, keeps the beetles away. It's really a little late for these, but I want to go ahead and get them used up. And they just barely fit with these thin inner covers. Make sure you don't cover your hole up there with the pollen patty on the inside. All right, let's get into number 14. 14's looking good out on the front too. Yellow pollen coming in. Probably take off one of those blocks. And we need to get our entrance reducer back in over here. As we could still have some cool nights, and we don't want all that brood that we moved down here to get exposed to too much cold. Man, we may have to call 99 stinky. That's a stinky hive. I don't know what that is. Usually when I smell that, it's like bad news and it's dead. Unless I'm smelling something else around here. Ah, this one's looking pretty good too. This one has a little bit of that smell, but not as much as over here did. Let's see what this weighs. It doesn't weigh quite as much as this one over here, but it's not bad. Pollen and capped honey right here. So we're doing okay for now as far as food stores go. We got queen laying right here. I see drones, so we've got drones hatched. Yeah, this is all larvae right here. And this is all larvae out here and capped. Drone. So same thing, I'm just going to move down and see where the cap brood is. So I can see cap brood right here. I don't need to pull this frame, I'm just going to scoot it. I see cap brood, scoot. I see cap brood, capped brood, I can't tell on this one. It's capped on that side. Right here's all pollen. So our frames need to be shifted over one to the right, at least one. And let's see, for food store purposes, what these look like. This is heavy, full frame of honey just about. Same. So what we'll do is we'll take these two frames here on the outside. How much honey's in this one? Just one side looks like, this side's empty. So we're going to take these two and move them to the other side, but I'm going to flip them around so the honey's closer to the bees. So I'm betting I'm not going to see any brood below, so I'm just going to go ahead and center these up now. Because if I found some brood below, like a frame or two, I'd want to pull it up to the top or into this box, and then it gets rotated to the bottom. I didn't move that over far enough. Boy, my eyeball's off. How much honey was on this one? There's a little bit here and some pollen, so I'm going to go ahead and put that back. And I'm going to scoot them over one frame. So here's this honey frame. And then this one that was on one side, I'll put the honey towards the bees. A lot of propolis. I'm getting a little grumpy now. So we'll pull this off. It's going to be our future bottom box. A little bit of drone brood right here, bridged between the top and bottom. So most of this is empty. All the bees down in here are just going back and forth for the most part. I really don't even have to look. I can tell there's nothing in here. So here's a cull frame, except it's got pollen in it, dang it. So I want to clean these off. This frame here says it's a 2019. Let's take a look at it. See if we want to cull it. So when I say cull, I'll take it out of the hive, I'll scrape the comb off, I'll power wash it, coat it with wax, and have it ready for next year. It's full of pollen at the top, so don't want to mess with that. That's 2019, 20. Let's take a look at this 2019 one. Well, this one don't have a year on it, so that means it's pretty old. Lots of pollen. Looks like I'm too late for this hive to do any culling of frames. Check this 2019 one here. It's full of pollen. Yeah, we've seen enough here. Let's just go ahead and flip it around. This has a screen bottom board, so we're going to replace it with a solid. I don't like these screen bottom boards because they let out too much of my oxalic acid vapors. Okay, here's our bottom board. Solid bottom. And this was our top, now it's on the bottom. Nice and heavy. They've got plenty of honey to get them through to the nectar flow. And here's our mostly empty previous bottom box. Now it's the top. We'll just leave that out front, let them work their way in here. So you normally want to put your pollen patties in about 45 days before your nectar flow. At least that's the way I think about it. because it stimulates the queen laying more, which she's already laying pretty good. And when those eggs that she lays hatch out, and 45 days later, you'll have a really strong hive. Most of the eggs will hatch out in under 30 days. I think it's 21 days for a worker. And that way when you have the nectar flow, you have your strongest population. There's a big old drone right there. Hello. Okay, let's get in Hive 15. I'm curious to look at this one. This one has the Ceracell bottom on there. And they sent me that all the way from New Zealand. And I really like it. The guy from there contacted me about a month ago and said he was going to send me another one that's improved. But I have not seen it yet. Really nice people at Ceracell. I really like their feeders, their top feeders. They're top notch. If your ground's a little unlevel, the syrup will go to one of the corners, and there's a feeder where the bees can get to the nectar in every corner. So it doesn't matter if your hive's a little off level. So we're feeding this one. It's got the shim on it, and there's sugar down in the entrance, so they must be hauling that sugar out, because I was concerned about the weight on this one. Yeah, it could weigh more. So this had an entire top sugar feeder put on it, so that whole thing was it wasn't completely full, it was kind of domed up, but there was probably 4 pounds of sugar in there. You can see they've consumed most of it from there on the left side and worked their way to the right. So that's kept these bees from starving, I think. See what the entrance looks like. So see how that entrance works? You can see the sugar down there in there where they've been, it's been falling off, or they're trying to haul it out. I'm not sure which. Let's get that off of there. This hive I don't believe is near as strong as these other two. The sun has set. Not the best time to be in your bees because they're all here. All your foragers are home. So if you got a grumpy hive, you're gonna get it. Yeah, this don't look very good. I mean, I see bees in here, but not near the population as that other one. So here's some 2016 frames. And see, that doesn't look bad. It's pretty light. So we'll leave it. I won't cull that. And this one, I would say we're going to cull that. That's a 16 frame, 2016. And it's pretty dark. So we'll set it aside. This frame's not very dark, so I'll go ahead and leave it. So there's not near the propolis up in this one, not near the population. So we need to make sure it's queen right as well. There's an old queen cell from last year, probably. So this is a 17 frame, but it's got honey right there, so we're gonna leave it. Not seeing any brood. Capped honey here. There's a little bit of new nectar in this frame here, not much. So they are collecting some. This hive, rather than rotate, probably just needs to be a reduce. This is kind of heavy here. It's got a lot of nectar in it, capped honey. It's a good food frame, same on this side. That might be liquid from when I fed them last fall. Trying to get them heavy for winter. We need to be seeing brood, I'm not seeing any. Oh yeah, that next frame has some. So looks like they may be preparing for the queen to lay right there. And she's laying in here. There's our queen right there, unmarked. Not a bad looking queen. She's running around there looking for a place to lay. Okay, I've got my eye on her, putting that in there. So I know she's right here on this frame on the bottom. So I'm going to get this over there quick before the pinch point can get her. So that's solid brood right there and there. So she's going, she just not near as much as the other hives. And that's a good brood frame there and here. So they're mainly over on this right side. We just need to center them up. She's laid clear to the outside frame. I wonder if it's warmer over there. That's why she's done that. So let's pull out a couple of these and move them over. Actually, this was closer to the center, so I'm going to put it on the inside of that one. And this frame here. So we'll move this and we'll look for another frame from the bottom to bring up here. And we'll put our new frame in the top to replace the one we culled. Again, most of the bees over on the right side. Okay, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 2017 frames. Let's see what they look like. Dark black and empty. That one's going to get cold. This is a 2017. I'm going to go ahead and pull it, and I'm going to re-wax right here, but it's not that dark. This is a 2019. I'm going to leave that one more year. Here's a 2017. Pretty clean comb. It don't look bad. It needs some wax right there. I'm just going to leave that in there. This one's unmarked. Very dark. I'll take it out. 21, leaving that. So this is a 21 frame. And it's still pretty dark, but see how they didn't draw that out and the wax is gone, so it needs re-waxed. In fact, I think I'll just pull that. This is an 2018. Pretty dark. I'm going to take it out. 2017. It's got a little pollen, that's okay. Same here. This one's a 2016. A lot of bees on there. I'm going to take this frame and I'm going to put it right between the brood. Give that queen a new place to lay. So we've centered up our brood chamber. So I'm putting this right in the middle of it. You don't want to do that if you got a really small colony. This is, I would say it's medium to small. They'll do fine with that as far as maintaining their temperature. Let's see, we were leaving that one. I'll put that right in the middle and I'll put the new frames around it there. Let me go ahead and get those. So these are recycled frames, most of them, that I've cleaned up. This is one that's been power washed and re-waxed. And this is one that just has a new wax coated foundation in it. So those are old frames and I've marked them. Yeah, most of them I have. I need to get my marker. Three, 6, 7, 8. Just enough. Get these all marked. I'm just going to dump it back here. So this bottom, it's pretty neat. It's stuck right now, but it has these little slits here where you can move this red lever and open and shut for ventilation. So it's basically like a screen bottom board. It needs to be cleaned out, and I couldn't get it to move. And it also has a trap for wasps. So if you have trouble with wasps, you can put some oil in this, or actually you can just run it dry. It has these little bee escapes, like one-way bee valves, and it slides into the bottom. So I'm not going to run it because it was full of bees, dead bees. So bees go in there, they can't get out because of these little traps. So I'm going to leave this off. So because I don't have a wash problem, and that'll make this a little bit of a ventilated hive. So I don't know about that in this area. A lot of people have big time problems with wasps. So that I don't know why the bees would be going in there if there's nothing in there to attract them. So that's strange. Let's get this put back together. And I do like running a slatted rack with that plastic bottom. So when I'm putting the heavy box down, I don't have to worry about lining it up on those little tabs. It just sits right down on there. Okay, here's our new bottom full of bees. So we need to keep an eye on this with that not being such a strong colony. You know what I might do is just put this pollen patty right here on top of them in the middle. Yep, that fit good. These frames aren't sticking up. So we need to check on them and make sure they're expanding okay. And this doesn't cause them a problem where they don't have the population to defend all this hive. But most of this isn't comb, it's just undrawn foundation. I'm gonna leave this on here for a little while longer, just in case. If y'all saw what happened last year, I had a bunch of bees starving in the spring during the nectar flow when it started raining because their population got too big and they couldn't fly and collect nectar. They ran out of food, and I had piles of dead bees in 3 or 4 hives. It was quite an ordeal. Put that there as a reminder, and I'll make notes. So you can see all the bees down here on this old bottom. They went right back up in there. Got us a pretty sunset going. Yeah, so that's it, hive rotation. You can see it takes a long time, so that's why I've been doing this 2 weeks. I do a few at a time, and I should have been doing it sooner, but the weather wasn't cooperating with me. And get those empty boxes on the top and the full boxes with the brood on the bottom, and that'll set you up for next winter. You won't have to feed your bees because you'll have a top box full of honey. They'll fill that up before they start working on the honey supers. That's the theory behind that. So give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe on your way out, and I'll catch you on the next beekeeping video. Y'all take care.